Oppenheimer will be the most important film of this century. But why? This video is sponsored by Sennheiser. More on that later. This film is going to be huge, massive. And that's not just because the IMAX film reel weighs 600 pounds and it's 11 miles long. And no, it's not because it has the most insane Hollywood A-list of actors in any film I've seen anytime. You go down the list of actors and just in the middle of it, there's Rami Malek thrown in.
No, this is not about, no, yes.
Or there's gonna be Gary Oldman apparently just for like one line of dialogue. It's bonkers. Everyone wanted to be a part of this film. There's even more reasons why this film is so important. Not just in the way that it's being released, which is unprecedented, and not even in the radical way that they filmed this movie with so many first-time technologies. And according to Nolan, this is the most important story in human history.
Oppenheimer's story is one of the biggest stories imaginable.
But let's start with number one, or actually a different number, 100. You see, this film is going to have what's called a theatrical window. It's going to have a 100-day theatrical window, to be exact. And this is really crucial to why this film may shape moviegoing from here on in. You see, a theatrical window is the time that a movie is in the theaters. It's this space for the film to be seen only on the big screen, in a true theatrical environment. Since movies came to theaters, there traditionally has been a theatrical window. And ever since the late 60s, it's actually been shrinking with the advent of TV. In the early 70s, a theatrical window was typically 5 years from when a movie would be shown in theaters and until you would actually see it on primetime TV. That has shrunk so much that now there's virtually no theatrical window. And this is a big reason why Christopher Nolan left Warner Brothers is with his film Tenet. At the last minute, they released it online the same day that the film was having its theatrical run. So there was no window. It ended up being a bit of a flop, and to this day, I still pretend that I understand the film. And theatrical windows are important for films because it draws people into a space to see the film truly the way the filmmaker intended. For me as a filmmaker, I've had the pleasure of having my films screened on huge screens, even IMAX theaters. And there's nothing like getting to see your film pixel for pixel, note for note, the way that you had designed it in post-production. But Nolan demanding this from Universal and receiving this theatrical window, which says that Universal can't put it on streaming platforms and they can't actually release any other films. It's a pretty extreme measure within that 100-day window, could be a turning point for the industry. It could be resetting a precedent from the past that films would get to have their run in the theater, that the filmmakers and the thousands of people that get to work on them have their art shown the way that it was truly meant to be seen. And moviegoers get to have the full immersive experience without it just being slapped onto their iPhone by so many of these streaming platforms. Another really important factor of why this film could shape storytelling forever is the fact that it's a biographical film. This is actually Nolan's first film based on a true story. He's always dabbled in the fantasy, reality bending type genre, but this film is entirely grounded in reality. The remarkable story of Robert J. Oppenheimer, which if you want to know more about him, I read an incredible book, American Prometheus, which I also highly recommend checking out. It's a big read though. But not only is this film important for bringing Oppenheimer's life to a mass audience, and he's known as the father of the atomic bomb, which has shaped the way we do modern day politics, the way countries interact, the way we get our energy. There's so much to this one man's inventions and brain that has shaped humanity now and forever. But more than that, if you look at the top 100 films for box office gross revenue, none of them are based on true stories. I hate to break it to you, Jack and Rose are not real people.
I'll never let go.
If Oppenheimer breaks into that top 10, this is sending a clear signal to the studios that the mass audiences have a tolerance for real life stories, which for me as a full-time documentary filmmaker warms my heart. But it also might finally shift the funding from studios away from the Avengers and Marvel universe, away from just Star Wars films or animated films, and usher in a new age of not only just biographical films, but films that are grounded in truth and real life. Now, I'm not ripping on those genres, although I just could not give a flying about the Marvel movies. It's just me. They do nothing for me.
Okay. You've been a delight.
I cannot wait to see the bank accounts and the coffers of these studios in Hollywood begin to shift to other genres than people wearing tights and attacking a guy with a big hand. I think it's important for us as a culture to be surrounded by stories that we can relate to. Yes, the emotions in these films like Harry Potter do contain real life parallels, but there's something lost when we always have to escape to an alternate universe. That's for another video. I'm just excited that a biographical film could be in the top 10, and that we get to see a master of his craft like Christopher Nolan delve into this genre. Now, I know we've been talking a lot about the importance of beautiful images in your film, but what about the sound? Recently, Sennheiser sent us their EWDP wireless mic system, and we've been using this extensively on our new cinematography course that we've been filming for Art of Documentary. Now, we've been loving this pack for quite a few reasons. One mainly is this plate that you get to attach onto the camera, so you don't have to deal with the hot shoe or anything like that. And it has tiny little magnets that allow you to simply slot your receiver onto the camera like that. And talking about settings, there is a digital readout right here, which faces you as a camera operator, so you know everything that's going on. You don't have to wake up the pack or look at the side. And there's magnets on the top of this too, so you can stack multiple receivers. Not only that, but you can talk to the whole system, including the transmitter, via an app, so it can be discreet in the middle of a shot. If you're noticing that the mic might be peaking or something like that, you can go into the app and make all the adjustments that you need right there. This has an internal chargeable battery as well, so we've just actually been plugging it in via USB-C right off our V-mount batteries on the back, and the pack goes all day. Another product, which you've actually been listening to this whole video from, it's the mic that I've been using, except right now I'm using my Sennheiser 416. In my hand, I have the Sennheiser, this is a new shotgun mic, it's the MKH 8060. And this is a fantastic mic because it's highly weatherproof, which I love to use for documentary work. And it sounds amazing, just like my 416. Been using Sennheiser a lot more. They've been a huge supporter of a lot of the films I've been working on, getting us the right gear that we need. And I've been loving using them in the field. And we'll be using this pack a lot more on the course. But let's get back to my favorite part of filmmaking, the images. I don't think people really understand how crazy the story of the atom bomb and nuclear physics is.
Nuclear. It's pronounced nuclear.
There was one point when I was reading the book that when they were doing their nuclear testing and lighting off a bomb in this testing ground area, there was a slight chance they believed that it could start a chain reaction in our atmosphere and blow up the entire world.
Are we saying there's a chance that when we push that button, we destroy the world?
Chances are near zero.
Near zero.
There was some crazy stuff going on, and we should all know about it. And lastly, I cannot stress enough the amount of technical effort that goes into making a film like Oppenheimer. Just like Nolan's films, Dunkirk and Tenet, this film was shot entirely on 70mm film, and Nolan is pushing for the most 70mm projections of any film simultaneously. It will be screened in thousands of what they're calling premium large format screens, or IMAX theaters.
It fills your peripheral vision, it immerses you in the image. The clarity, the crispness, it is the gold standard. It is the closest to reproducing the world the way that your eye sees it.
For this film, they even developed a whole new type of film, the first ever 70mm black and white film.
How are we gonna do it? Because 65mm black and white was a format that didn't exist.
Now, this film is a period piece, so there's moments I imagine that they wanted to do archival footage in black and white. And Nolan is a purist, so he didn't want to just color correct it into black and white, but have true black and white film capture those moments. It's very exciting for me as a filmmaker to think that there's an entire new aesthetic being added to the library of film capture. Now, I love IMAX, and that's not just because it started in Canada, about half an hour where I grew up in. It's actually where I started my career. Right out of film school, I worked on many IMAX films. I was in the camera department and the editing department, and I got to work up close and personal with 65mm film and super high resolution cameras. Often my job was just to be in the editing suite, looking deep into the background of 18K resolution footage to make sure we didn't see any PAs or random grips or people walking their dogs in the back deep part of the shots, because there was such high resolution. And when you take that footage to a 6-story size screen, suddenly you can see a lot more than you were on your computer. But the key feature of IMAX, and why I think it's so important to recognize this for the moviegoer, is the size of screen. Not that it's some sort of novelty that it's a huge screen. It's the fact that it goes beyond your peripheral. That when you look to the center of the screen, you're not seeing the edges of the screen. This is how we see life. We don't have the edge of our own vision. We can look around, but more importantly, when we're looking at a certain subject, we don't see the edge. 16:9, the way we view TV, the way we look at most of our content, is just not real life. It's like looking through a mail slot or an army bunker where you're seeing this strange little slot. IMAX doesn't need to actually be 3D for us to feel fully immersed. A big part of that is because our eyes get to go parallel when we look at this IMAX screen and get to focus on something that's in the distance. This is the way we see. But when you start interacting with 3D glasses or VR headsets, it requires your eyes to converge as something comes close, but then also focus deep. This is a phenomenon that doesn't occur in real life and actually can cause a lot of strain on your ocular muscles, which is why people often get headaches when using VR headsets or watching 3D. And unfortunately, there's a lot of bad 3D out there that really tore apart the genre. Also, you're fully immersed and you don't have to wear glasses or some futuristic ski goggles strapped to your face. To me, it's the most pure and engaging film viewing experience. So Oppenheimer has been talked about, and not just because of silly things like how much money was spent on it or how many years they spent making it. It's a story about a real person, a real man who did shape the history of humanity. And it's a film that deserved to be using the most high resolution and immersive experience that we have in our current era of technology. I'm so grateful for filmmakers like Nolan who are pushing the boundaries and pushing us to get out of our seats and go back to the theaters. The pandemic really trained us just to expect movies to be delivered to our phones and our laptops and our computers instantaneously once they were finished, where that's not the true way a film was ever meant to be experienced. Musicians' music is meant to be experienced live. A film should be screened at some point in a theater. I'm not trying to give you a guilt trip for going to theaters. I don't go to them that often myself, but I do love it when I do. And I love going because I feel like it's the best way to respect a person's craft is to see it the way they designed the film. So I'm very excited to see what will happen with Oppenheimer. I anticipate it to perhaps break into that top 20, 25, maybe just top 50 in terms of all-time grossing, but I expect it to be the first real story, the first biographical film to be in that genre. And I hope that there's gonna be more theatrical windows for films that have had so much effort put into them. Bringing back that space and that time for the film to be enjoyed in its true format will be really important for filmmaking and will also help fund new stories and inspire new filmmakers all around the world. Thanks for watching this. I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think of Oppenheimer, if you think it's going to do anything at all for the industry or do more than I even said. And would love to hear your thoughts on IMAX and perhaps even VR. Thanks for watching this. I never know how to sign off. I hate goodbyes.
I've been making films for the big screen for a long time now. Everything is about that larger-than-life experience that we're intending to give the audience at the end of things. It's very much cinematic. It's something that you have to see on the screen. It's a grand-scale entertainment. And for me, that was always the ambition for the film.
Okay, let's do one more of those right away, please.